The topic under discussion today, we will be discussing about mobile testing, and the topic is building mobile testing knowledge and scaling it across the organization. We have none other than we have Daniel Knott, who's an expert in the field. He's authored a couple of books. He has about 15 years of experience. He's worked as test engineer, product manager for native mobile apps and web products. He's written books on hands-on mobile testing and smartwatch app testing. He's currently heading product and quality experience at MaibornWolff in Germany. And I'm super excited to bring to you Daniel. Thank you so much for being the part of the session, Daniel. Would you want to take over?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, Yuri. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, hi everyone, and welcome to my talk. Looking forward to it, and also looking forward to your questions and yeah, to the exchange afterwards. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see it. Starting the presenter mode. Here we are, moving some windows around so I can see some of you while talking. Yeah, and with that, thanks for the introduction, Yuhi. I think there's nothing else that I need to say about today's talk. It's about building up mobile testing knowledge and how to scale it across organizations. And the big important thing, or what I wanted to say is in the beginning, is that also Yuri mentioned before that I would like to add some of my experiences that I've made in the past 15 years working in the industry and especially in mobile testing, and to give you some into it. Yeah, I don't need to introduce myself again. Thanks for that. It was pretty nice. Thank you for that. Worth mention is that I have a YouTube channel since last year where I also share my knowledge on mobile testing and software testing. If you would like to take a look at, yeah, let me know. And also I'm blogging from time to time on Adventures in QA around the topic of mobile and software testing. But let's take a look what is in this talk today. So first of all, let's take a quick look on the agenda. So I would like to go into like the current state of the mobile market. So you can see here, give you some numbers. I would like to talk about the mobile user, why this is important to know. I will talk about some challenges, testing scenarios, scaling, how to scale it, and how to release a mobile product frequently, and what I have learned, especially in that part, when releasing mobile products. And last but not least, closing the session with some key takeaways. So let's take a look at some numbers that I found for you. So in 2020, there were more than 1 billion devices sold. And I think it's quite an impressive number, because when I'm talking to various people on conference, they usually hear the momentum saying, oh, mobile, there's no growth anymore. People go away from mobile apps and they do something else. But that's might be true for some of you, for some cases, for some industries, but still overall the mobile market is still growing, and that's pretty amazing. As also an interesting number here, by end of 2023, so by end of this year, we will have more than 6 billion users will use a smartphone. Also by end of this year, we will have more than 935 billion of app revenue in dollars across all the app ecosystems there, being it native, responsive web apps, and so forth. So everything that you can purchase on a mobile device, and that's a pretty amazing number, I would say. Yeah, some numbers on the mobile apps. Apple and Google are providing more than 4 million apps, native apps in their stores, and there might also be change coming to the Apple ecosystem by this year. Because Apple need also to open up for third-party app stores. So this might be an interesting topic in the near future. This is already the case for Google or Android devices, that you can install third-party app stores. But if this is also coming to Apple, we'll have an increase in apps as well. Interesting numbers in terms of the user base, or like the people using the mobile products, is that 20% of the millennials, they open up the apps more than 50 times per day. And that's also an interesting number. Compared to that, also almost 70% of all US digital media time comes from mobile apps, which I think is also pretty amazing number. What else do we have? We have an average smartphone user is using 10 apps per day and a maximum of 30 apps per month. And just to give you some idea how many apps you're using. And this is also something that you can take a look at your personal usage. I mean, when I take a look at my usage, is I have maybe 10, 15 apps that I'm using heavily, and then I have like hundreds of apps installed, and I just tried out, maybe was trying out only once, and then I'm never using them again. And last but not least, in 2020, there were more than 150 million app downloads. It's also quite an impressive number compared to the 4 million apps that we have in the stores. You see there's like a huge number of downloads. And there's also a number that I haven't brought here, is that almost 70% of users, they remove an app after the first app usage because they see the app is crashing and so forth and so forth. So that's quite impressive. So just to give you an idea on the current state of the mobile market. And yeah, mobile technology changed our lives. And for this talk today, I brought 2 examples for you to actually show you what mobile devices did to our life, to our environment. So this is a picture that I usually have in my slides. Is that on top you see 2025 is the 2005, sorry, was the Pope election, when there were like people standing in front of from the balcony waiting for the next Pope to be shown up. And there were only like little users using their stupid feature phone, taking some pictures nobody can recognize. And then just 8 years later, you see the difference, right? So that like everyone is using their mobile device or tablet to actually capture the moment. Another example is that I found this quite impressive when I found it, is that in 1999, there were more than 80 billion photos taken on old film, like on physical film. So 80 billion photos have been taken there. It's a huge number worldwide. But looking at 2015, more than 2 trillion photos have been shared online. That's quite impressive, right? And the important thing here, I would say, is the shared word, because look at yourself, like how many pictures are you taking before you share one single picture to some online social media or you share with your friends. So this number is much, much bigger. And this also shows us, or shows at least to me, that mobile devices changed our lives. And also there are so many different examples that you can take. I mean, on a mobile device, you can do banking, travel booking, you can do everything on your mobile device, controlling third-party apps or controlling third-party devices from your watch, from the car, from your washing machine. So everything is possible these days. So this was just like setting the field of the mobile ecosystem, and that this is like a big topic. I would like to start with the first topic for today, and the first building up knowledge when it comes to mobile is the mobile users. It's important to talk about mobile users because they have like a high expectation when it comes to mobile products. And I brought you some additional numbers here, not covering like the complete market, but in particular the mobile users. Here in this case, I found some numbers that an adult checks every 12 minutes their smartphone. Quite impressive, right? 88 of our smartphone time spent on apps. That's an average worldwide. Then we have that was the number I was looking for before, was mentioning before, is that 80% of users delete an app after the first usage, and I said 70%, it's even higher. So users, they're really picky when it comes to mobile apps. So they download an app, they see, okay, maybe it's not working out, I expect something different. And for mobile apps and for mobile devices, it's so easy to just tap on the next app in the App Store to try the app out. So it's like just a few taps away to reach to the next product. And that's why it's important that whenever you ship a mobile app, that you have high quality standards. Here are 4 reasons for deleting an app. So the first one is bad design, bad usability, loading times, and app crashes. So if one of those 4 things coming to the forefront for the user, this is a reason why they're going to delete an app. And this is something you should avoid. Last but not least, that nearly 60%, it's similar to the 80%, is that nearly 60% of users will delete an app that requires a registration. So in case you have a product, think about a freebie locked out user experience that they can try out your product without doing a registration. And that's I'm totally in the 60%. I mean, if I download an app these days and I have to register before trying out the product, I just go away. I don't want to have like yet another app that I need to give my data to. And last but not least, this is also important to know, is that users expect an app to load under 2 seconds. So that's important. So speed really matters when it comes to mobile products, because also think about yourself when you use your mobile device. I use my device when I'm on the go, traveling, commuting. And sometimes I'm switching trains, for example, and I just want to quickly check, okay, which track I have to go to. And if the app then requires, like, I don't know, minutes, not minutes, but multiple seconds to load, it might be too late to catch the next train or to walk in the wrong direction. So that's why speed matters here. So what can you do actually to getting to know your customer and to fulfill the need of the high expectation is that, yeah, you should get information about your user needs and the preferences. So you need to talk to them, gather information as much as possible about your user base. So for example, you can go and collect tracking, or you can do market research, for example. You can read studies that are available out online. You can, of course, implement tracking in case you haven't done so far for your web product, for example. Or you can use user interviews. So this is something you should do on a regular basis. Talk to your customers, ask them. Like, this is a perfect example. What we have seen before my talk is that we get like a very first idea of new products from BrowserStack, and that's perfect because you guys are going to talk to us, to people out of the community, and ask like, hey, is this something valuable for you to use in your daily life as testing experts? And that's exactly what you should do as well with mobile apps. Then once you have collected all this data and gathered the information, you should outline the most important scenarios and make them transparent to the company and to the team. Some of you might think like, hey, why is this something for me as a mobile tester or as a software tester? Of course, this is nothing that is completely in your hands, right? This is also something for the product people, for the marketing people. But at least if you get into a company where this information is not present, you should ask for it and then make it transparent to the company or to the development team, because it's such a useful information. Once you have defined your scenarios, like you know what the users really want, it's important to focus on user values. So what are the values of those users, and then clearly focus on them, because then in the end, that what makes the product valuable for customers and also to get happy customers in the end. Yeah, and mobile testers, of course, they can plan their whole testing activities around this data. I have done it in the past. I will give some more examples in a few slides, but it's something then when we selected devices for testing, for example, or when we had some weird issues that we found out happened only on some devices or in some situations. So I completely planned my whole testing activities around this information. But this was something that I had to learn the hard way, right? I was starting in mobile testing in late 2010, and there was literally nothing out there, like for mobile, no automation tool. There were a few, but they were not mature enough. There was not too many information that I could research up on how to do mobile testing, and so I had to learn about it. Yeah, so this is something you should do when it comes to the mobile users. Next one that I would like to talk about is the challenges that you're going to face when working with mobile. And for this meetup or for this talk, I brought to you 3 challenges that I would like to highlight on a few slides. So the first one is fragmentation. Second one is sensors, why sensors are important to keep in mind when testing for mobile. And last but not least, of course, test automation. Why is this important? So let's take a look at fragmentation. I mean, for those of you who know work with fragmentation, work with mobile devices, know that there's fragmentation. Unfortunately, OpenSignal is not updating their report on the Android fragmentation. And this picture I took from the original report from 2014, just to give you an idea like how fragmented the Android market is. So there's like this big player called Samsung and various other device manufacturers using their own customized Android operating system. So this is a huge topic when you test for Android devices. On the other side, or in the beginning of the time when there was only like one iPhone and no iPad available, fragmentation wasn't a thing on iOS. But this has changed, and this is also like already see it's an outdated screenshot because it's like coming from the iPhone SE 2nd generation to now we have iPhone 14. This year iPhone 15 is coming out, and we have totally different form factors, different resolutions, and then also including the iPad, the different variations to it. We have also fragmentation topic on iOS, not as hard as on the Android side, but still we have it, just to keep in mind. So what can you do actually in order to handle the device fragmentation? And this is now like an example or an idea that I had when I was working with mobile, because I wasn't able to actually get too many devices in 2010 and 11. They were expensive. The company was like limited on budget. So I took the data from the customer base, like who is using our app on which devices. And based on that knowledge, I was building so-called, yeah, of course, it's not possible to test on all devices. Sorry, I missed that one. To test on different device groups. And this is something I've done. So I built 3 device groups. So group 1 with a priority A. And in this device group, I defined some criteria based on our target customers. So we knew that our target customers, which has the high priority, like heavy users, users that come on a daily basis, they have devices that fit into that categories, like high-end devices, quad-core CPU, a lot of memory, full HD display, and so forth. So some ideas to get for you to get the idea. Then we have the group B, group 2 with priority B. So we have mid-range devices, still powerful hardware, but smaller screen and a bit older software. And last but not least, we have the group C, priority C, small devices, capacity of the memory and the CPU is not that strong, lower resolution, and we have an old operating system and an older browser, but still we see a lot of users coming from their target customer base, right? So, and with those device groups, the mobile device groups that I created back then, I selected the devices. So I was checking tracking data that we had, okay, and then I decided, okay, each of the group had around, let's say, 10 to 15 devices in each group. So it was in total was still a lot of devices, like 30 or 45 devices that I could pick from. But when I was doing my manual testing or the test sessions within the team or within the whole department, we focused on those groups, of course, only, and then we picked some devices randomly. And then we tested against those new features, against those devices. And with that, it helped us to completely boil down the thing of fragmentation, you know, to don't have to mess up with hundreds or thousands of device combinations. And that was pretty helpful for us. So it was a pretty easy thing to do. And I was also updating, of course, the device groups from time to time with the device, because also users, especially around Christmas or when there were like new big keynotes coming out from the device manufacturers, that there are new devices coming to the market, we were, of course, changing this. Yeah. And then, of course, later in time, we used also mobile device clouds for sure, like BrowserStack, for example, to actually compensate the maintenance mode, because you have to keep in mind still, if you have like 45 devices in your company or even more, I don't know, the maintenance effort that you have to do to keep the devices in the correct state, in the correct software version, and this is a challenging job. And it could be a full-time job, or even a whole team could work on only like maintaining the devices. And this is expensive in the long run. So using device clouds is definitely something you should consider. Okay, let's take a look at the device sensors. I mean, they're like packed with, I don't know how many sensors, lots of them. Yeah. So I just brought to you some of them here and here. I just opened them up. So we have humidity sensors. Not all of the sensors, I have to say, are, for example, in the latest iPhone or in the latest Android device. Yeah. It's just an excerpt of the sensors that I have seen in the past. But all of the devices usually have an acceleration sensor, a touchless, sometimes a gyroscope, the ambient light sensor, proximity, location-based or GPS, magnetic pressure sensors. We have the fingerprint, we have Face ID. So the devices are packed with tons of sensors. And these sensors, they have an impact to your testing activities. And when I started, again, there's like some anecdote when I was testing for mobile apps. We had an app that was using or was able to take a picture. And I was like, yeah, okay, the camera's inside the camera. There's a camera inside a mobile device. How can this impact my testing activities? And then we had some weird 1-star reviews on the App Store, and I was like, what's going on there? Why is this failing? This feature is working perfectly. And then I noticed that it was on a particular device, and I had exactly the device on my desk, and it was working. It's like, something must be wrong with my setup or with the user setup. And then we tried to get in contact with the user and with our customer success department. And we found out that the device manufacturer had different sensors or different chips of the camera built. So there was like a different charge of the resolution of the camera. And that was causing the issue, because my device, I think, was a bit older than the device of the user. And it was causing the issue. And this completely was like a heads up for me back then. Say, okay, sensors might impact, and even sensors within one device family can change over time, because of course they buy different chips from different vendors, put them into the device, On the outside, it doesn't change, right? But in the inside, it has a huge impact. And that's why important we have to keep in mind the sensors. That's why important that, of course, you need to know like which sensors are used by your product. If you don't use, I don't know, the humidity sensor, you don't need to test against this, right? It's just depending on your product. If your product requires specific sensors, you have to test on the specific vendors and device combinations again. Again, create a strategy on how and where you would like to test against the sensors. So also we come to that, I think, in a couple of slides is the environment. Where are you testing your mobile product? It differs from the office with strong Wi-Fi, surrounded with concrete and metal, or being outside. It's a huge game changer. Keep the device groups in mind, and then again to verify against only to those devices to keep the sensors challenge also to a minimum. And then of course test the app in the real environment before each release. This is nothing you should do like in an emulated or simulated way, because this is something that the real environment, it will impact your testing activities and the testing results. Okay, let's take a look at the automation. I will not mention any tool here. Sorry, if you were looking for like a specific recommendation for test automation, I will not, because it's just the market is so big for test automation for mobile. But usually what I talk to people is there is no silver bullet. Yeah, I mean, this is nothing special for mobile testing. It's also similar for software testing. Yeah, what I usually say, it's like start simple with automation. Get an idea on what you would like to automate, on which level. What are your user journeys? What are your critical path and these kind of things? So what I usually suggest is to create some questions that you should ask yourself in order to find the right automation tool for your needs. Yeah, because automation should support your testing activities. It should never replace testing. Yeah, it should help you to save time, to do some manual testing, to go outside and to test the app in the real environment where customers will use it. That's important. So that's something you should always consider. Yeah, that's why it's important to invest time to find the right test automation tool that fits to your requirements and needs. Because I've seen it in the past, like, oh yeah, there's Calabash. Let's go to Calabash. Now I'm giving you some names. It's not supported anymore, not valid anymore. But people were going there. Then there was Appium. Hey, let's go to Appium. Appium is the best thing in the world. Then there was, hey, let's use Selenium and so forth. So this is something. There's always like the hype product in the market, in the field, but you should take your time and to consider what is the best tool that fits to your need. Maybe you don't need an end-to-end test automation tool for mobile. Maybe it's enough to do some unit testing, API testing, and you're good to go. It differs. Yeah. Then, of course, once you have found the right tool, you should invest time in your CI/CD pipeline and the testing infrastructure. It's also something when we started in 2010, we had an old iMac running in our team space, and this was our build system. Yeah, it was working back then. We had some devices connected, but in the later point in time, this was not scaling anymore. So investing time in CI/CD pipelines is always helpful. But again, it's also nothing special for mobile. And last but not least, this is something that you should always bring into your team, get help from the developers. It should not only be like the tester's responsibility to decide on the tool, to write automation. It's a team effort, and developers should help you to work on these kind of things. Okay, let's get to some mobile testing scenarios that are important to know. So first, I think I brought two on one particular environment or like topic where scenarios can lead to different results is the environment I mentioned before. So where you test your app has a huge impact on your testing results. Yeah, I'll give you 3 examples in the next slide. So again, define your testing activities and find the right location where to test your app. This is again highly correlated with your user base. Yeah, if you have a commuting app, for example, you have to go out and travel and to commute on the product that you're serving for, because the local network can impact your testing activities, or the environment, the GPS, the sensors, and these kind of things, low network capacities and stuff. So that's why important, go out. The office is not the right, the best environment for testing. Of course, it's cozy there. You have your coffee, your beverages, you have a strong internet connection, but this is nothing your users will have always. Yeah. Of course, the app use case and purpose should guide you to the right testing spots. That's important to know what I said. When I was testing for one product, it was also like it was a ride-hailing application we were testing. So we were actually going and using the buses for the testing. So we were testing right in those devices, so like physical cars. And also another one was I was building an app for a big German car manufacturer. It was an extension for the car. So it was actually my best test device that I ever got. It was like a big, expensive car. It was exclusively available for me. And I had to drive around while using the product. Of course, there was something next to me using the product while I was driving, or the other one was driving, but we had to do it like an integrated way in the real environment. So that's why it's important. So again, depending on the app use case, location differs from app to app. And here just three examples. Yeah. So you might test your app on a slope, on a mountain, while skiing, while we're using big clothes, and you cannot touch control elements, can impact your testing. Or you have like a sunny location where you can't see like all the control elements, UI elements on the screen. So it might be like UI issues might be related. Or if you have like sweaty hands and fingers, might be harder to control. Or if you're in a city center, for example, for those of you who try to use GPS in a big city surrounded by big buildings, it's sometimes hard to find the right spot in navigation. And if your app relies on navigation and GPS, you have to go there as well. Of course, you can simulate all this like the GPS stuff, but it's nothing compared to a real environment. And yeah. Then, of course, the tech stack also influences the testing scenarios. So you should know like what's the tech stack, what's the API, what's the responses, how is the API handling like slow internet connections and these kind of things. And what is the backend system? Or do we have a backend system at all? Or is everything running on the mobile device itself? Something that you should find out. Here are a couple of scenarios that I brought to you that you can do actually in the various environments and while you're doing your daily mobile testing activities for apps. So for example, you can do, I just read them all out. I'll give you some examples. Interrupt testing, like somebody is calling you, a push notification comes in. What happens if you remove permissions? Is your app able to handle this kind of things? Standby testing, like just click the button, the power button on the device, and while the app is running, is the app able to handle the situation? Sensors we talked about, accessibilities, we just heard it before my talk. Accessibility is getting a big topic in the next years. Security, always important to keep in mind, and also get help from experts. Third-party apps might have a huge impact to your application. And also again, here, I had once an issue with third-party keyboard apps. We also had some bad reviews in the store. It's like, well, what's going on there? Why everything is working? And the user was complaining that he was not able to actually navigate or use some UI elements. And was like, okay, what's going on there? We need to find out what's going to happen. And then we found out that this user was using a third-party keyboard app, and the keyboard app was just too high and was blocking our UI control elements, and our app was not able in identifying this to change the UI and to place the button above the keyboard. This is something that you can have with third-party apps. Also gestures, like you have like multiple gestures you can do on a mobile device. This is something you could do. I was also like doing like once in a meeting. I was pretty bored because was not so important, interesting meeting. I was opening the app and was just like tapping multiple times with my fingers on the phone, and out of nowhere the app was crashing, and these kind of things happened. And then we were trying out like, hey, what's going on? And I was just like too fast, hitting too many things at the same time on the UI with my I think 2 or 3 fingers. We found a bug by accident, but nevertheless, gestures are important. And then, yeah, we have multitasking, app data, in-app purchase. We also have seen the new product feature coming out that in case you have in-app purchase, it's important to keep in mind that your revenue stream has to be tested across the devices, across the different payment systems there. Performance is important. Usability, mobile networks, battery and local storage, all those things have an impact to your testing activities. Also, one more example is that the battery drainage is also one thing. I mean, I think you all hate, me included, I'm hating this so much. It's like when I'm out there and I see that one app is consuming too much battery, and I know that the next power outlet is like hours away, I cannot charge my phone, I could just go and delete the app because I need to save my battery, right? And also once the battery is running like, let's say under 10%, most of the devices, they cut off features or functionalities. For example, vibrations not working anymore. So also the battery state can have an impact on your apps that you're testing. And to cheat sheet, I updated it a couple of, last year is already 2020 when I updated it. The cheat sheet, it's free for you to use. It's a big mind map. It has basically all the scenarios that you can use for your mobile, get it there, extended to share it with me. If you have some other ideas, would be great, because I know that many teams and companies using the cheat sheet already to improve their manual testing. And that's also the bullet point I have here. It's like you need to improve, or you need to not improve, you need to invest time in manual testing. And then test the app in the environment. I talked about that. Establishing a beta testing community to get early feedback can also be something. If you would like to know how to do that on iOS and Android, you can either check my YouTube channel or my blog. I explained it there, what are the benefits, how to do it in order to get some beta testing feedback. And of course, do internal testing with colleagues. That's also always important, to test sessions and so forth and so forth. And of course, automate the easy part. And if you don't have any experts in terms of mobile testing, get help. Get some trainers in that help you in terms of mobile testing, setting up the environment, because otherwise it's you will waste time and money. Okay, then let's go to the scaling part of this talk. The first one is scaling mobile testing across the organization. And I brought 3 sections that I have seen in my past experience when working or when scaling mobile. So also to give you some background, when I started in a mobile team, we were like 2 iOS to Android developers and myself. And then the company grew and we had more features, more feature teams. And then the company decided, okay, we need to scale it up. We need to give the mobile knowledge to other teams. And in the end, before I left the company, we were like, I think 35 mobile teams working full-fledged on iOS, Android, and testing. So scaling was a huge topic. And based on that learnings, I brought to you basically 3 sections. And the first one is people. So what's the scaling part and why people are so important? So mobile knowledge in all disciplines is important for scaling. It's really important that you have to educate the people in mobile, not only in testing or mobile development, but what is the mobile ecosystem all about? Like, how are users using products? How are they using the product in the wild and so forth? So this is important knowledge to have. So you need to invest time into mobile training, education. And it's also important to get rid of the web thinking. I mean, this is not there anymore, I would say, because when I started in 2010, I said, people had only web, that big screens, browsers. They were using everything with their mouse. Now you can use it with your fingers. So that's a different user experience. So the web thinking is something they have to get rid of. And then of course you have to find the right people with mobile development and testing skills. It's not easy. Like every company is searching for mobile experts these days, and they would like to build an app, build a native app, responsive app, whatever is in your product line. So finding the really talented people isn't easy. And then again, get help from experts to coach those people. And when I had the challenging task to scale this mobile testing across the company, it was my main task was like to educate people on that topic. I was doing this for more than a year, going through each team and educate them in testing, on mobile testing. The next topic is the tech stack. When you would like to scale, you need to invest time to analyze the mobile tech stack. Is it the same in all teams? When I'm talking to clients, especially big brands now, they tell me they have a mobile app, and then they notice that they have different mobile teams, and each team is using a different tech stack, different tooling, different automation tools, different programming languages to build, for example, APIs or to build a backend, and this can be a challenging thing. And this is something that you need to streamline. So you need to streamline the tech across the whole company in order to have a successful scaling approach inside and to also ship a great product. That's why you should define a standard set of tests not of tests, sorry, of tools that you should use across those teams to have the same language, to use the same tooling, and to also help out whenever there's an issue in terms of bugs, issues, whatever is coming out there. Define the standard, and then of course the team has to use it as well. Educated teams, again, we're coming back to people, educating people. It's a huge topic. And then last but not least, also provide guidance in using CI/CD or cloud devices, because this is in the end saving you lots of time when you would like to scale across the whole company and to get bigger, and of course faster. Last topic is communication. So why communication is important? Communication is getting more and more important once you scale across organizations. Because you're not talking only to mobile testers or mobile developers, you have also designers, you have UX, you have product people, and then you have also internal stakeholders. You have customer care people, for example, or you have upper management. So you also need to educate them and to help in communicating the right things to them for them to understand. That's important. Release testing. So I will come to that in a second, because releasing is also one part of this talk today. Is release testing and the handling of releasing a mobile product is getting even more complex when you scale. So you need to establish a process and rules for teams. I'll come to that in a second. And last but not least, what I've seen is really helpful is to establish a central platform team to handle releases, the communication, to educate the people, and also to work on tooling and infrastructure. So imagine you have 30 teams and every team is working on their own infrastructure. This is not scaling in the long run. So you need a central team focusing on all these things and to provide it as a service inside the company. Okay, let's go to release a mobile product. I think we are good in time. So why is it important or so difficult to release a mobile product? So first of all, you should release it frequently, and user expect a bug-free app. We all know that this is not possible. Software is never free of bugs, being it mobile, being it desktop, software, web applications, whatever's out there. There's always something, but the users expect it. They have a high expectation. Keep in mind the high deletion number that I mentioned, or like numbers that I mentioned before. What is really helpful when you would like to release mobile products frequently is that you should plan code freezes and app releases to the whole organization, because this helps to organize and to give guidance to the team. Because if they know, okay, in, I don't know, next week, Friday, we have a code freeze and then some testing days are going to start, they can plan their activities, they can plan their team routines. When working with Agile, they can use the Scrum or Kanban approach to actually plan their feature implementation. What I have seen in the past is it's helpful to have regular releases, like on a 2-week cycle, because users also, they always tend to, they like updates and they always like to get the latest features. And with a 2-week cycle, it's also possible for you to ship bug fixes or any issues that you would like to handle. When working with mobile, with multiple teams, a release train can help. And I brought for you an example what a release train is and how it can look like. And every team, of course, should catch this train in case they would like to release. And with this release train, there are coming some rules and some steps before they can go live. And of course, such a release train freeze should happen automatically. So it should not involve manual activities, because then it's always like, you know, keep this metaphor in mind that you would like to catch the train running on a track. You're a late passenger, you would like just jump into the train. And I've seen this in the past as well. Like people, like there's like 5 minutes before the code freeze. Oh, here's a last minute fix. It's tested. We just need to get it in. It's so important for us. And then this tiny little pull request is then causing a complete app to crash and a complete organization to stop, because they have to fix it. They have to restart the whole process again. And this is that's why it's important to do it automatically. There's a machine. It's just freezing the code and there's no late passengers running around. So why a release train? I also wrote an article some years ago. You can find it here as well to read everything about a release train. So basically what's a release train? It's planned code freezes. It has planned and fixed release dates. Yeah? So it's 2 things, and I have some visuals on the next slide. That's important for teams to actually plan the activities around this. And with the release train, it's important to define clear processes on how to get into the release train, and what's going to happen in case the train is broken. So imagine you have a planned code freeze, you run your CI/CD pipeline, tests are green, and then you do some manual testing, and then you find out that the app is crashing on a specific device, so you have to stop the train. It cannot go further. So you have to find a way to fix this issue, and therefore clear processes are helpful. The train, of course, should always be on time, should never be late. And missing the train, of course, missing the feature, and this will not go live. And this also ties back to the communication part. Why is it so important? Because we had funny discussions with product teams, like why is it important to bypass the process and to catch the train, because their feature is so important. It's much more important than the other features. And this is something that we have had to learn the hard way, because it was sometimes escalated to the upper management that this feature need to get in. But we stick to the rules. We had the backing from the CTO back then, so we were allowed to say no. This helped a lot. So that's why communication and processes are helpful in terms of release trains. As I said already, never accept late passengers. So here's an example release train. So imagine you have 10 days of coding, and then on a particular date, we have the code freeze. And we say on that code freeze day, we can already upload to the app stores, being it Google or Apple, to just start the review process. On Google, it's a bit faster than on Apple, but we have the code freeze, we do our CI/CD pipeline running, and then we do some final integration testing. Maybe we do some manual checks into Teams, and then we upload. Then we wait for the reviews on the Play Store, on the App Store, and oops, that was too late, too fast, and then we have good to go. But then I usually recommend to go into the beta testing phase. Yeah, I mentioned before, establishing a beta testing community is always helpful, and to get some early feedback from beta testers. You can do it for 7 days, for 2 days. This depends on your life cycle of the product, on the industry. When we've done it, we've done it for 7 days, for example, to gather some feedback. Then once you have, of course, the 7 days beta feedback, everything is good. You can then start your so-called stage rollout. Go to 20%, go to 50%, and then go to 100%. And the good thing is about this release train and this stage rollout is that in case you notice something on the 20% stage, that something is broken, you can stop the train, and only 20% of our users have the broken app version, and the others, the 80%, they can still go and have a better product, right? So this is helpful. And then, of course, once the teams have uploaded, or the app has been uploaded, the next coding cycle starts for all the teams. And with that, this is a cycle. This is something you can plan well ahead. And this is a clear process, because you can also put dates to it. Say, okay, this is like the first January, and then they know that in, 14 days later, we are live at 100%. And then again, 2 weeks later, we are live at 100%. This helps a lot to streamline the process and to help it scaling in an organization. What happens after the mobile release? Of course, you have to monitor the app release. So my morning routine was always after an app release, was checking our internal dashboards, like what's the API doing, how is the API responding, and so forth, and how is the user reacting on the app stores. Yeah, so checking crash logs was one part, social media and app stores I just mentioned, and last but not least, you have to react in case of a critical app. Yeah. So that's important. So it's not just like blindly pushing the app out, you also have to react on it. Okay, let's come to an end. The key takeaways. Mobile technologies changed our lives. Yes, I brought 2 examples for you. I have some more, but these are 2 that I found really impressive. The mobile market is still growing. That's important to keep in mind. Mobile users have a really high expectation to your product and to the services that they're using. They spend lots of money on a device. They also then expect sometimes apps for free, and then those apps have to have a high quality. You should get to know your customers and interact with them. You should define test scenarios based on your app, on your tech stack, on the environment. Of course, then you should identify your challenges and then to start tackle them, because there is no way. I cannot say, okay, that's the right way to do mobile testing. It's different for all of you. Start simple and reconsider your approach from time to time. That's also what we've done, especially in 2010 or 11. There was nothing. we were failing with automation a lot. Yeah, we had red tests the whole time and was like, why is it not working? And we reduced the amount of tests and we did some more manual testing. We established beta testing and so forth and so forth. So we were trying out many things. And I think over the course of the year working in mobile, I think I tried 4 or 5 test automation tools, and we even had to migrate everything over again. Get help from experts, educate your people, and scaling requires a process and more communication than ever, at least what I have seen. And yeah, take small steps when scaling across the organization. Don't start what I've seen with a big bang. With a big bang, get the backing from the upper management, and then start like with 1 more team, 2 teams, and so forth, and then start to unleash mobile across the organization. And with that, we're coming to an end. Sorry, a bit longer than expected. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Happy to reach out now in the questions. There are 15 chat messages, and if you have some questions, we are happy to answer them now. If not, visit my handle on Twitter or come to my blog. You will also find my email address, or we can meet in Slack afterwards and talk about things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel. We are opening the stage for the questions. So in case you might have any questions, there are a couple of questions on the chat. There's one from Michael, which says, would you recommend to automate basic UI tests with a mocked backend? Do you want to take that?
Yeah, let's take it. I mean, yeah, go for it. I mean, that's definitely something you can do. I mean, if you just would like to just check your UI changes, and it doesn't need to have like the data from the backend, or you can mock it, go for it. If that's easier, faster for you, absolutely.
Calling in for more questions. If there are no questions, if any one of you want to pitch in and chime in and talk about the challenges or some of your success and failure stories in doing mobile testing at your organization, we have 2 minutes to take that up. Daniel, we have one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
In fact, there are 3 more, so you might want to take it up from the chat.
Okay. Sure. So yeah, starting from the first one, you touched a bit on emulators versus real devices. How far are emulators nowadays from real devices in terms of testing? Still far away. Still far away. I mean, I'm still using emulators and simulators. Yeah, it's for me, it's sometimes easier to just create an emulator with a different like form factor, because I don't have the device at hand, and I have maybe at the moment no device cloud, maybe in case of a customer base or something. I use emulators usually for like really quick tests and checks. And it's also something that we do in our teams, but it's nothing that I would recommend as the one and only environment where you should test your applications. Yeah, it should always like be one part of your test environment. Yeah, and they're still far away. I mean, of course, emulators got a bit better. You can also like throttle the network and simulate things, but in the end, it's especially for emulators, it's yeah, they're not so fast. They're emulating the hardware, and simulators is just like simulated software, piece of software. It's like it's implicating the device. So you have to go and do it on test device, on real devices, definitely.
Okay, so that's where BrowserStack comes into play. So we introduce the products.
Exactly. Yeah. So which mobile automation tool will you recommend for iOS and Android devices on your yeah, as I said, I mean, there's like, I mean, Appium is the de facto standard at the moment. Yeah, when taking a look at Android and iOS to share code base, and this is something that you can take a look at if you like to take a look at from an end-to-end perspective. There's Detox, for example. It's also an open source tool that you can use for, it's more like a gray box approach. Or now there's this new hyped tool, maybe I've noticed it already, it's the Maestro, where you can define flows for your mobile apps and to write test automation really fast and easy. I would say it really depends on your tech stack. I'm not a big fan of saying, okay, let's use this Appium tool and do all the automation for our mobile apps. Yeah, it's something that I do within the team. Say, okay, what kind of tools do we, what kind of tech stack do we have? How does our backend look like? So what can we do on the backend side for test automation, unit test integration system? What's the API? What API tests can we do? Yeah, and then we have, of course, tools like Espresso, XC test, or XUI test to test the standalone activities. We have visual AI and this kind of thing. So you have to combine them to get a proper result. I hope this answers the question.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, you're welcome. If I understood it correctly, you mentioned that you execute your automation suite on the environment that your final users use. Does that mean that you execute your automation suite on production? No, with that I meant the execution in the real environment is then pure manual based. So the execution of the automation happens on a staging system. Some of the tests, so some user journeys that we identify as critical, we also execute on production, but we limit that to like a handful of tests because we don't want to mess with tracking, with, you know, that we don't want to give too many load on the system, on the production system, even though that's not an issue. So we test automation on production, and then the final part we do on real devices, sometimes on staging, but sometimes, or in more cases, on the real environments on the production system. Yeah. Okay, there's one more. Any special tailored metrics you use in terms of mobile testing? No, it depends again on the client, again on the or just HTE. What do you mean with HTE? Sorry, or just in general. I mean, speed is always like a metric for us. Yeah, we define some KPI, some threshold what the API responses should be like as fast as possible, and also the payload of data that we're sending to the customers is something that we are setting our KPIs and metrics to say, okay, it needs to have like a we don't want to exceed a certain limit of megabytes transferring to the customers, because if you're running on a mobile plan, we don't want to waste your data. Yeah, so these kind of metrics we had. Yeah, that's what we're using from time to time. But it also sometimes it changes. It also differs from working with 30 teams. They have 30 different metrics for their particular feature set. Yeah, we were more defining the overall feature set in terms of speed and these kind of things. Okay, Michael, how do you know that the app is working for customers? Are you relying on bug reports only, or are you doing some observability? Also multiple things. We have some dashboards, observability dashboards, monitoring, logging in place, crash reporting that we're using. So in case the app is crashing, we have a crash reporting tool. Bugs, of course, bug reporting. We have also the for our beta testers, we had the I can't remember the vendor, but it's like, you know, you can shake the phone and then it opens up a screen, and you can do, it's capturing the screenshot, and you can file a bug report right from the device and send it to our ticket system. Instabug, for example. I think there are some others. Yes, Eric, thanks. That you can include as a third party. And what we were also doing is we were conducting lots of user interviews. Yeah, so we were inviting, I think on a regular basis, inviting like every 4 to 6 weeks, we're inviting real customers to our office pre-COVID, and now it's a remote setup. And then we were asking them specific questions like, how do you like that product? What do you think about this feature that might come in the next few weeks or so? So also to get this feedback in. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Okay, there's one. Yeah, you're welcome. Sergio, my last question. Sorry if overloading. In terms of risks in mobile, are you usually more concerned with some risks than others? For example, more concerned with performance and security and usability than other quality aspects, for example? I'm usually concerned about security, to be honest, because I'm not a security expert at all. I mean, Of course, I can go online and search for the most critical hacks or things that you can check on security topics, but this is nothing that I do and say, yes, I sign it with my blood. It's secure. That's something that we do with experts. So we get security experts. We do audits very often with security companies because they know what to do. They have suites that they can run through, check for vulnerabilities and these kind of things. And because this is something that concerns me. It's like if you handle sensitive data, customer data, or payment data, this can cause a complete company to go bankrupt. Reputation issues, and so this is something that concerns me. Performance, yeah, it's always important, but security is something that really concerns me. Yeah.
We can take just one last question. There's a question from Alan on the Q&A, if you can.
Oh, sorry,
so it says,
I see. I just have a different window open. Okay, I can read it out.
No problem.
Yeah, hi, Alan. Great presentation, thank you. What are the main challenges, generally speaking, on your daily activity when implementing tests? Do you face challenges regarding object identification, upload, download, loading screens, etc., or are there other types of problems? The biggest challenges when working with teams, because at the moment I'm not really hands-on in doing like test automation implementation stuff, but I'm working with mobile teams, and the main challenge that I see is to tell them that not to start right away with just yet another feature to implement, to automate. Because I usually ask like, hey, let's do a risk assessment. Like, is this a risky feature? Is it really so important that we need to automate it? Or can we do it in a beta testing approach? Can ask our customers to verify it, or do a crowdsourced testing approach? And then we define critical user journeys, flows from an end-to-end perspective, and then we start to automate them. Yeah, so this is something, for me, it's a lot of people educating and communicating. And it's also something that you should actually bring into your development team. It's, if you talk about testing as part of the refinement, in best case, you should tell like the developers, like, hey, what are you going to implement and how are you going to test it? And then you start a discussion. And then you can say, okay, let's focus this feature on the API only because this is perfect, and so forth and so forth. So that's again what you should just do. Start the conversation, and then you will find the right thing to automate and how to do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. This was insightful and a very interesting session. Thank you so much for joining in, guys, taking out time and joining in.